Hi, everybody. How you doing? How's the soup? Awesome, right? I'm like, if you get that sounded surprised. Listen. But that's the whole point. I think that's why I chose this recipe, because I want to, I'm like, let me make something that I know people are going to like the flavor profiles, and that you know that you can eat food that you can still enjoy while eating to help manage your chronic inflammatory symptoms. Because let me tell you, if you're not enjoying your food, it's not going to be healing. And I thoroughly believe that. Food should be medicine, but it should be really enjoyable. So today we're going to be focusing on talking about nutrition for wound healing, because with hidradenitis suppurativa, there's a lot of wounds, and either even not just from your flares, but if you have a deroofing procedure or a white excision surgery, there's a lot that you can do with your nutrition to help support the wound healing for that. So welcome. And I'm not going to be cooking live, as you notice. You'll be enjoying the soup because, logistically speaking, I flew in yesterday, and I'm like, I can't pack my pots and my pans. And it was already 50 pounds, I could only do so much. So I hope you enjoy the soup while we get into the talk. So I'm Cristina Curp. I'm a holistic nutritionist. I'm a chef. I'm a private chef. I'm a cookbook author. And I actually have a few copies of my cookbooks, which we can give away, and we'll do that during the Q&A at the end. I was diagnosed with hidradenitis suppurativa when I was 13 years old. And like a lot of us here, I went to the dermatologist. Hey, I'm having these recurring bumps in my, groin, bikini line, mons pubis. And they were like, oh, well, you need to wash better and lose weight. And for a 13-year-old girl, that was super traumatizing. And for years, it was a lot of antibiotics and topicals. And there wasn't a lot of treatment options. And this was back in the early 1990s, because I'm almost 40. And so there weren't a lot of great options. After I had my son, and I know some people have experienced this, the postpartum roller coaster with HS made it so much worse. And I found myself really desperate. And I was breastfeeding, so treatment options were limited on what could be safe to take. And I went to the kitchen. And I used my chef knowledge to start making food that would help me feel better. And it was a long journey, but I got to the point where I got into remission. And I've been able to maintain it. And I was so passionate about what I discovered and how much nutrition changed my life that I wanted to study it and understand it. And so I've been now working almost a decade in the community helping people with chronic illness better understand how nutrition can be a tool. It doesn't have to be the only tool. It doesn't have to be the whole story. Nutrition can be super complementary to your surgery, to your biologic, to your antibiotics, to whatever treatment option that you're doing with your doctor. Nutrition can be a complementary tool. And I think that that's something that is oftentimes lost in the message in the more holistic circles. It's very anti-medication, and that's not what nutrition is about. Especially a holistic approach. Holistic just means all-encompassing. We're looking at everything. We're looking at your lifestyle, your stress levels, is your environment, and again, your treatment options. So I want to work with everything you got going on, not against it. All right. So what you are eating, what I made today for you guys, is a hamburger soup. I love this soup because, to me, it tastes like you got a hamburger and you deconstructed it and put it in a bowl. It's got the tanginess, it's got some pickles in there, the lettuce. This one is made with ground turkey, not beef. I found that to be a little more crowd-friendly in case there were people who don't eat red meat. But it is made with chicken bone broth, and it's got, I cooked it with olive oil and avocado oil, but either work because they're rich in monounsaturated fats. I love focusing on the onion, the celery, and the garlic. Or even the sofrito. There's a lot of Latin cultures, or cultures generally speaking. Even I think about Cajun cuisine. You see the holy trinity, right, of flavor. We often don't think of these parts of our cooking, the flavor makers, as nutrient dense. But even these foods in our cultural foods are really healing for a lot of different reasons. So I don't think that wellness has to be a departure from the foods that you grew up. You can use a lot of that, So again, the onion, the garlic, and the celery have prebiotics and natural antimicrobials, which are going to help contribute to the healing process. The protein. And I have nothing, if anyone's plant-based, I'm really sorry. You can definitely get protein as well. But I'm very partial to animal-based proteins. I feel like they're very high in very bioavailable nutrients, which, again, really help with wound healing. We're going to get into the zinc and the arginine for tissue repair and much deeper in a little bit, so I'm not going to go into it now. Same thing with bone broth. Collagen is super important for good quality wound healing. There is a paleo mayo and Dijon in there. It's kind of what adds to that flavor. It's literally mayonnaise and mustard in that soup. I know it sounds weird, but trust, right? It's good, you're eating it. It's what adds to the flavor, dill pickle brine, and again, part of the secret sauce of what makes it taste like a burger, and the seasonings. And your seasoning cabinet is something that a lot of people overlook. Hold on, I'm from Miami and I'm Cuban. Am I talking too fast? No. Okay. My boyfriend was talk slow, people might not understand you. I was okay, let me ask. Okay. So we often look at our spice cabinet and just think that there's flavor there, but there's actually a lot of like this powerhouse of nutrition in your, I see my seasoning cabinet is like a medicine cabinet. There's turmeric, it's anti-inflammatory. Cinnamon, which helps with blood sugar regulation. You know, oregano, which is antimicrobial. So I feel like sometimes we're making food and we're seasoning it and we think that, oh, because we're not eating a kale salad, it's not good for you. And that's not the case. We have to rethink the way that we think of what healthy looks like. So, key nutrients for wound healing. And this is probably gonna be the hardiest part of my presentation, so I'm gonna look at my handy dandy notes here to make sure I hit every single point. But when you look at the food that you eat, I want you to also think of, look what I'm adding into my diet. There's so much focus on restriction when we start talking about nutrition for managing chronic illness. And you will get more out of it if you focus on what you add in versus if you focus on what you're cutting out. Because when you focus only on restriction, it's not sustainable. It kind of gets depressing. And for a lot of people, it can trigger a lot of disordered eating problems. So we want to move away from things which are going to incite food fear and trauma around food. And I want you to look at every time you eat, like think about a burger. You go to the drive-thru and you're eating a burger, you're like, yeah, look at this burger patty. It's got protein, which is going to help my wound healing. Don't focus so much on being scared of what you're eating because that stress around food is terrible for you. Like it is worse for you than whatever else you think is bad in the food, right? There is no good and bad. There's no morality attached to food, okay? All right, so protein. Think of like your body as a construction site. And when you have a wound, like from HS or from a surgery, your body goes into repair mode. And there's like a team of little workers that show up to fix it. So the protein is the building material. Your body needs protein to rebuild skin, blood vessels, and tissue. Protein also fuels that building crew. So protein helps create important tools like immune cells, enzymes, and hormones that are part of the healing process. They're like the electricians and the plumbers and the inspectors. So you need protein to give your body not just the building materials, but to fuel that crew. If you don't get enough protein, the healing slows down. And this means that wounds stay open longer, which means that you're more susceptible to infection, and it can leave more scarring, right? So your protein sources, of course, in this soup, for example, you're gonna have the turkey, and in the bone broth, there's protein as well. Next is vitamin A. Think of vitamin A as a project manager in a construction site. It's ideal, it's essentially what tells your body to hey, we gotta regrow this skin tissue, get to work, body. It's managing everything else that's going on. It reduces swelling and it helps fight off infection. It literally tells your cells to repair and grow. Isn't that wild? And there's vitamin A is something you can get cherries are a really good source of vitamin A. It's in a lot of different fruits. Vitamin A sends signals that, again, tell your cells to make new cells, tell your skin to make new cells. It also boosts your immune system, so again, helps fight off that infection. And that's, again, really important because HS is not an infection, as we know, but we can be prone to infection, especially when we have open wounds. Vitamin C. Vitamin C is like the glue of the scaffolding. And vitamin C is important not only as an antioxidant and, again, also an immune booster, but it's vital for our body to create collagen. And collagen, I know you've probably seen collagen supplements, and a lot of people talk about collagen. Our body creates a lot of collagen, and the collagen that our body creates is the best, because you can consume collagen, but it doesn't always absorb that way in a usable form. So eating a lot of vitamin C-rich foods, which again is going to come in a lot of fruits and vegetables, especially citrus, that's going to help your body create really good quality collagen. And you need that elasticity in your skin to create good quality scar tissue that's going to hold, right? Because you want, when your wounds close, for them to stay closed, okay? So again, think about what you're eating and how it kind of works to repair your skin. Zinc, I'm sure a lot of you there's a lot of talk about zinc in the HS community and supplementing with zinc and eating zinc. And there's a few reasons why zinc is important. It's also, again, found in a lot of protein sources. So zinc is like the repair technician and the security guard of your construction site. Think of zinc as it's needed to activate the enzymes, right, that are needed for the tissue repair, and it's also another immune booster and helps fight off infection. So it's kind of playing double duty there. Then arginine. Arginine is helps smooth the way so things flow smoothly, so the materials can get to where they need to go. We often don't think of inflammation in the way that it impacts our cardiovascular system, but I wonder how many people here have had high cholesterol. Like even if you get like high cholesterol, you can be like, I'm doing everything right, I'm not eating super high fat, or I'm not eating this, but I still have high cholesterol. And a lot of times that's just a byproduct of having a lot of inflammation. When your body has inflammation, it's gonna cause damage to blood vessels. What does your body do? It sends cholesterols to patch up the damage. And so then there's this whole correlation of like inflammation and then like restriction with the cardiovascular system. And so you literally, arginine helps with the blood flow. So all those enzymes and those things can get to where they need to go to heal the wound. All right, so why blood sugar regulation is crucial. And now blood sugar regulation is a topic that I love to talk a lot about because it's something that it's becoming more and more aware, and I think even a lot of doctors are becoming aware that within the HS community, I think we're seeing now it's up to like 75% of HS patients are dealing with insulin resistance or some kind of metabolic issue. And there's gonna be a lot of different ways in which unstable blood sugar affects HS, right? Not only in having more flares, but in the way that your flares heal. So when you have blood sugar dysregulation, which can be because you're working up to a pre-diabetic state, or already pre-diabetic, or have type 2 diabetes, most people in the standard American diet, we're just not thinking of food in the way of eating in a way that we're having rolling hills versus highs and lows. It's normal. You eat something, you have a response. That's totally healthy. No one's saying here you have to just like, I don't know, like only eat steak. It's okay to eat carbs. Carbs are not the enemy, fruit's not the enemy. But we wanna make sure we're not having these extreme spikes after we eat because it's slow wound healing, it's gonna increase inflammation and the risk of infection. And again, it impairs the immune cell and function and the collagen synthesis, which is kind of crazy. There's another thing with high blood sugar that when you have insulin resistance, it also drives like high androgens, which can drive hair follicle inflammation and like sebum oil production. So it also impacts your hormones. And I know with hidradenitis suppurativa, there's a lot of like hormonal HS or hormonal flares. Blood sugar regulation, because insulin is a hormone, and it's kind of like the mob boss of hormones that like affects all the other hormones, but like low key, kind of on the down low. So people don't think about, they'll say, well, my HS is hormonal, it has nothing to do with diet. I'm like, well, diet has a lot to do with your hormones, so it might disagree. Okay, so high blood sugar will literally make your blood sticky, like syrup. And it makes it difficult to get to the repair zone. Think about it, like literally your blood has to flow to the areas it needs to get to for wound healing. So just in that really basic elemental thing of like, think of syrup, like think of maple syrup going through your veins. It's not gonna move as fast as if it was more like water, right? All right, so what happens when your blood sugar spikes? There's a few different things that happen here. So again, once it like gums up the system and the delivery system, and that's gonna impair where things need to go. It's going to make it harder to fight infection. It's gonna damage the blood vessels. I talked about that cardiovascular health, right? Like we're not thinking about that. Sometimes with my clients, they'll say, oh, I have high cholesterol, so I gotta cut out all my fats. But they're also pre-diabetic. And I'm like, actually, let's focus on lowering your inflammation, on balancing that blood sugar, and like moderate, healthy fat. We don't have to go, like, I mean, the no-fat diet, that's so 1990s. Like we're not going back to like zero-fat yogurt, that's depressing. So focus, like come on, it doesn't taste like anything, it's gross. So thinking like, healthy amounts of fats in your diet are fine. You don't have to, because your liver is making a lot of the cholesterol in your body, but what you want is you want to make sure you're lowering that inflammation, and that'll bring down the high cholesterol as well. Because again, you need to get the ingredients to where they need to go, like they're reducing the oxygen and the nutrient delivery to tissues. Like that's gonna, like you're not gonna get enough oxygen and the nutrients so your wounds can heal. Isn't that wild, right? Okay, so there's a whole process here, and I have listened. So the glycation of proteins, excess glucose attaches to the proteins in the blood vessels and walls, forming advanced glycation and products, AGEs. And the AGEs stiffen and thicken the blood vessels, reducing their flexibility and making them more prone to damage, right? And that's when the cholesterol goes out. Your HDL literally goes, like the bad cholesterol is because it's going from your liver to your blood, and like that's going there to patch it up, right? Oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is an interesting one because there's a lot of things that cause oxidative stress, but again, dysregulated blood sugar is one of those big ones. And when you think of like oxidative stress, it just damages your cells. So eventually think of like molecules that are unstable because they're damaged. And there's a lot of different things that can do that in our body, but that's a lot of essentially when people are saying like, you have to detox. Like, what are you detoxing from? Like, all the times I'm detoxing from this. Like, it's oxidative stress type things. And then again, inflammation. Chronic hyperglycemia, which is high blood sugar, activates the inflammatory pathways, leading to the release of cytokines and adhesion molecules. And this promotes the buildup of the plaque, right? And I'm sure you've heard of that, like the buildup of plaque. and that's going to further weaken the blood vessels. So the blood sugar thing is very closely related to wound healing, to overall inflammation, and to how like the whole system in your body works. And again, I cannot say this enough, for HS patients, it is like a major player. So before you think about omitting foods from your diet, think about how can I balance my blood sugar, or how can I eat in a way that doesn't spike my blood sugar. And so you touched upon this a little bit in your presentation, that in the order in which you eat your foods. So for example, let's say you have, chicken, some fries, and some salad. Just eat half your chicken breast and most of your salad before you dive into the fries. Starting your meals with protein and fiber, because protein's it's digests so much slower than other things. It's going to really slow down the way that those carbs are going to hit your system. So don't think so much about cutting things out, but on like balance there, making sure that when you have carbohydrates, especially starchy carbohydrates present, like rice, bread, fries, things like that, any sugary drinks, whatnot, you also are having fiber and protein. And fiber is going to come in like leafy greens. Beans are high in fiber. Anything that grows above the ground is going to be very fibrous. And again, protein, any of your protein sources. If you're plant-based, your protein sources are play a little double duty, because yes, beans have some protein, but they also have starch and fiber. So it's a little bbit complicated. Tofu, I would say, is probably like the least starchy, highest protein plant source. And then you can get like your omega-3s from algae. But if you're an omnivore, you can also do your proteins that have high omega-3, like salmon and fatty fish. And those are really good for reducing inflammation. Okay, so again, damaged blood vessels can't deliver oxygen and nutrients, immune cells efficiently, and this slows down the wound healing. So can't reiterate enough, blood sugar regulation is going to really mess up your wound healing. If you're in a crisis flare right now, if you have flares right now, maybe go for the Coke Zero instead of the regular Coke, or water instead of the sweet tea. Opt for just fruit instead of, the candy bar. All of those things are going to really help your body heal faster. Okay, this soup is dairy-free. Dairy is not a trigger for everybody with HS, but in surveys that have been done, and I actually have the notes here from the studies, but it's interesting enough to bring up because there's been a lot of different surveys, and I'm not talking about the one that I'm running right now because I do have data from that, which I'll share later. But dairy is, okay, there's a patient-reported triggers and in a survey involving 728 HS patients, and 50% identified dairy products as exacerbating symptoms, right? In a retrospective study of 40 HS patients, they found that those on a low dairy, low carbohydrate diet experienced significant improvement in their condition. Another study reported that 83% of 47 HS patients on a dairy-free diet observed clinical improvement compared to the non-diet restricted control group. And I'll explain why they think that this works. So the hormonal influence, dairy components like casein and whey can increase insulin and insulin-like growth factor levels. This hormonal surge activates inflammatory pathways, which can lead to hyperkeratinization and follicular occlusion, right? So that keratin that builds in our skin, which is kind of why we get the bumps, and the follicular occlusion, which is your hair follicle getting blocked, which, as we know, plays a role in HS and the abscesses forming. So that growth factor, right, it elevates the inflammatory pathways. I won't get into the nerdy science part of it, but I think there's enough data to say if you're tried a lot of different things, maybe one day is worth trying it. I'm not saying for everybody, but I think that there's enough people that it's coming up a lot. We're starting to see patterns. There's no one thing that will work for every HS warrior, and I don't think cutting out foods is going to work for everybody. But if you've tried a lot of different things and you're frustrated, blood sugar regulation, number one. That's not enough, dairy-free. And like you said, and in the study, it showed, dairy will also impact your insulin, which is kind of crazy because there's lactose, which is the sugar in dairy. So there's an interplay there. So lower your sugar intake, moderate dairy, or see what types of dairy you do better with, and those could be really useful in helping kind of reduce how often you flare, the severity of your flares, or how quick your flares heal. Okay. The pharmacy. So I love thinking about food this way, and in my second cookbook, I have a ton of these graphics all over the book, but it's essentially of thinking as your food as just that. Don't just think of it as, oh, this is delicious, but how can I enjoy this stuff while also thinking of the nutrients that each food has, right? Because when we start thinking of our food in a functional manner, it really helps us to enjoy it more without, again, thinking of what I'm cutting out, right? So if I'm gonna go make a meal right now, I'm gonna say, okay, well, I'm really hungry and I wanna stay full for a long time, so I'm gonna grab a protein, like a chicken breast, because that's gonna keep me full for a long time. But if I don't have any carbs, I'm not gonna feel satiated in the moment. So you know what, I'm gonna add some chickpeas there, maybe a little sweet potato, and I need some fiber, because fiber is really good for you. It's super good for colon health, because Americans, we don't eat enough fiber, and then you're gonna get colon cancer, so please eat your vegetables. So I'm gonna add some spinach into my my plate as well, and kind of think of making your plates in this balanced way, kind of like putting together a puzzle, like curate it in the way that you like. Nothing makes me happier than like building my own salad bowl, like at one of those like tender green places. There's just something really satisfying about it. So think about, again, as the pharmacy, instead of what you're restricting, think about what you're getting from your plate. Okay, I want to leave plenty of time for questions, because I think when it comes to HS and nutrition, whether it comes to like a personal experience that you've had, or like I know someone earlier was asking me about easy ways to cook meals, I want to make sure that I'm going to answer a lot of these, like anything that you want to know about food. But I will talk a little bit about how to make this doable and meeting you where you are. Because you're probably thinking like, okay, Cristina, but I'm working, I have my kids, I have my 2 jobs, I have this, I have that. I don't have time between, life is so busy. Who has time to cook from scratch every single day now? Nobody, that's the answer, nobody. And not even me, and I'm a chef. And so I feel like we have to think about using the tools at our disposal. One of the things which I love to do is buy pre-chopped stuff. Like the bag of coleslaw is already shredded, done. The shredded carrots, the pre-chopped celery and onion, whatever I can to make it easier. There's a lot of good options in terms of like chicken that's already cooked, that's like simply grilled, that's just ready, you just heat it up. Microwavable bags like of rice, how awesome is that? You can use these tools. It's not cheating. Frozen vegetables versus fresh, there's no nutritional difference. You're still gonna get everything out of it. You have to make it work for you. And even if, let's say, you have some leftovers and you're mixing them with throwing some greens on them or using a meal kit delivery service, use the tools at your disposal to make cooking and preparing meals easier for you. It doesn't have to be a tool. I love using Hungry Root. I get a meal delivery, half of it's pre-made stuff, half of it's fresh, and I kind of mix and match as I go. And honestly, it saves me money, which is awesome, because I'm like, the grocery store in Miami is way more expensive than whatever I'm getting in that box. I don't know how they do it, but it saves me money. So however that works for you, make it work, because nutrition is, again, it doesn't have to be the enemy. Food doesn't have to be the enemy. It doesn't have to be something that you fear. You have to pay attention to your body, journal symptoms, and make it this thing that you enjoy and look forward to, not something that you fear. All right, so this is my cookbook. This is my second book. I have 2. I'm going to give them away. I have 3 of them. So I've got 2 of Made Whole, which is my first one. If you're a foodie and like to cook, because these recipes are not super simple, but they're really tasty. And there's a lot of like Latin recipes in here that are like, and it's like dairy-free, nightshade-free, gluten-free. And then I have one of Made Simple, which is the one on the screen. And Made Simple is great because it is like one-pot, slow cooker, pressure cooker type stuff. And it has a lot of like the pharmacy stuff and goes more into like blood sugar regulation on the front matter. So we'll do this at the end. And there's a lot of resources online. So my cookbooks, they introduced me and they said the Castaway Kitchen. Awkward. I sold that blog a year ago. It's okay. The recipe still exists on the internet. So if you go to the Castaway Kitchen, there's a ton of recipes on that website. Anything that's been published in the last year is not mine, but the body of work still exists. So you can definitely use it as a resource. This recipe is on that blog. It's on that website because, again, it was still mine. But you can find me online in any of these places. And so we're going to do questions now because I want to make sure we get to them. So do we have any questions? Anything about nutrition or cooking? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. The dairy swaps?
Yeah. Why isn't avocado oil listed, or is it something?
Avocado oil is a great, I just didn't just kept to keep it simple. I definitely think in terms of like cooking fats, it's interesting. What's really interesting about when people, I personally don't react to butter. I can't do milk, but I can cook with butter. And the reason that often happens is that milk fat doesn't have all the casein in the way. So and then ghee is clarified butter, so then it's even it has even less of it. So there's different amounts of it. And so for example, hard cheeses like Parmesan or really, they're gonna have less lactose. So most Parmesan's practically lactose free. It's very little in it and it's high in protein. So I'll do better with some Parmesan, but if I have brie, forget about it. So it's kind of about finding what works for you. But yeah, avocado oil, olive oil, any of those are gonna be fine for regular, like everyday cooking oils. Yeah.
And the beef in the recipe, is that being cooked while the pot is boiling, or you pre-cook it?
So okay, so this recipe, the way I made, and again, this one has turkey, but so you cook down the onions and the onion and the celery. You brown that first. Then you crumble in the beef raw. You brown that all the way, like all the way through. You season it, mix that in, and then at the end you're doing the broth and simmering it. And browning your meat that way, like soups that just throw everything in the pot, not ill, sorry. I don't mean to hurt your face. I'm just like, come on, it's gonna be lacking. You gotta brown the stuff and give it the flavor. That's how it makes it taste good. And that's another thing, like, make your food so it tastes good. Sometimes it takes a little bit extra effort, but you're gonna enjoy it exponentially. So yeah. Any other questions?
Were you saying that inflammation actually raises cholesterol?
Yes. Cholesterol is like, so think about cholesterol as like, it's Band-Aids for your blood vessels. So when there's damage in your blood vessels, which is caused by inflammation, it's gonna go out there and like patch it up, right? So oftentimes, like, it was so funny, my gardener, who's hilarious, he was like missing for like a few months and like only his guys were there. And then he came back and he was like super thin. And I'm like, whoa, what happened? Where'd you go? He's like, I had a heart attack. I'm like, shut up. Are you okay? He's like, I'm fine. He's like, yeah, and they told me to go vegan, but I was like, forget about that. So like, I just cut out all the sugar and the carbs. He's like, and I'm cooking everything in lard because it tastes good. He's like, but my cholesterol went down and now my cholesterol is perfect. But I was like, man, and so it's interesting. I mean, obviously some people like produce more cholesterol, so you have to cut, like, there's like genetics, they're like APO, whatever. So those people have to be more careful with like egg yolks and eating a ton of bacon and stuff. But for the average person who just eats a balanced diet, it's not so much about the going fat-free, it's the cutting out the sugar and things, and again, reducing inflammation. And with HS patients, so we see a lot of like high white blood cell count. How many of you every time you get your blood work, high white blood cell count, high ferritin, high CRP, those inflammatory markers are just popping. And again, systemic inflammatory issue. It's not just our skin, right? And I think a lot of us know like there's also fatigue, or there's joint pain, or there's also digestive issues, and there's headache, and there's brain fog, and some there's flu-like symptoms. And what I love about nutrition is that before my skin got better, all that got better, which is why I stayed the course. Because I'm like, it took me 2 years to get into remission, but I was like, oh my God, I'm pooping every day. I can get out of bed, nothing hurts. Like, okay, so I'm like, I'm going in the right direction. And my skin was still flaring, but I overall felt better. It's not just your skin. You have to look at the whole body health, right? All right, any other questions?
So if you have like a sugar craving, I struggle with this. Sometimes I want to go for the more like sugar-free options, but then they've got all those like, fake
Right.
sugar-free things. So like, what's better, eating something with sugar if you're having a craving, or like the sugar-free route, or what?
It's like a trade-off. So I think that like there's definitely like natural sugars. So one of my favorite things, and you're gonna like your eyes and be like, oh my God, Cristina, I love dates. So like one of my favorite desserts to make is I get dates, I fill them with like a nut, or like I can do peanut butter. So I'll stuff my date with peanut butter and like put something crunchy in there like a walnut, and then dip them in dark chocolate and freeze them, and they taste like Snickers. And like the date's gonna have like a natural sugar, but there's also fiber in there. Sometimes, like I made cookies earlier, sorry if not everyone got some, but those had Truvia in them, but Truvia was made with like a stevia and erythritol. I think that like erythritol, allulose, they're less bad for you than like aspartame type stuff. And like there's definitely some interesting studies that show that they like improve insulin sensitivity. So if you can digest them, that's fine. But sometimes they can cause a little like of gut discomfort. So you have to find if it works for you, by all means, have fun with it. Stevia, monk fruit, all those. If they don't work for you, then just go for the option that's like, oh, maybe I'm making this at home so I can use some honey or maple syrup and not use as much as what would be in a conventional, treat. So yeah. And sometimes I do both. Like I make a hot toddy that I'm obsessed with, and I do like 1 tablespoon regular honey and 1 tablespoon keto honey, just to kind of like, I don't want to go like, 2 tablespoons is a lot. It's made with allulose. And it's like flavored. It's terrible if you do like only, if the 2 tablespoons, it tastes like trash, so I mix it. Like you gotta find that like, it's what balance, so it's just one of those things. Any other questions? Yeah.
I don't know if you discussed this or not, but I see on social media you always are drinking your bone broth.
Yes.
Is there any specific benefits that you've seen with that and your HS?
Yeah, so I love bone broth. I crave it. It is in this recipe and like in the soup that you guys are drinking today. Bone broth has like a ton of different amino acids and minerals, which are just overall, it has collagen, which collagen's the big one, especially when it's gelatinous. Not all bone broth is created equal, right? So most unfortunately of the shelf-stable stuff at the store, it's not real bone broth. Unfortunately, you can like market stuff as, the gelatin in bone broth is gonna be apparent because if you put it in the fridge, it'll become Jell-O, like actual looks like Jell-O. But yeah, mostly collagen's really good, again, for the skin repair and tissue, but I just think the amino acids in there, just protein, has good minerals, and what I enjoy about it is that it just feels really nourishing. It suits my digestive system. I'm in remission for a while, but adding in bone broth to my diet, period, I never drank it before, has been a part of my journey. And one of the things that's interesting about my HS and the way I healed is that I had tunnels and I didn't have surgery on them, like they closed. So if I do flare now, because again, remission isn't cured, I can flare, the tunnels don't act up. It's just like a one spot situation. So maybe I think the nutrient density in my diet of not just the bone broth being a part of it, but fermented foods and organ meat. Like I was eating liver like all the time, like making pate and like adding it to ground beef. I still do, like I use ground beef, like ground meat blends with liver in it and all that kind of nerdy stuff, but it works. Like the nutrient density, making sure I was getting these nutrients in really helped like give the toolkit, like the little construction workers to do their job, you know? Any other questions? Yeah.
What is your opinion of like lactate pills or lactose pills and things of that?
If they work for you and help you, digest it, fine. I think that it might help if you can't digest dairy, but sometimes you can digest a food, but it still can be a trigger for your HS, which is such a sorry, Rena. But it's true because like I can digest my trigger foods. Like gluten does nothing to my gut, but I will immediately get a migraine and then 2 days later I will have a flare, no fail. But I can digest it. It's so bizarre. And so that's really hard because the way that there's so many different inflammatory pathways, and the way in which certain trigger foods affect us, it has nothing to do with not being able to digest them, which is so annoying, that's why food journaling is really important, because these triggers will happen a day or 2 or 3, even up to 3 days later sometimes. But remember, not everybody with HS has trigger foods, right? But trigger food is a food in which your body mounts like an immune or an inflammatory response to eating that food. That's one thing. But like when I'm talking about blood sugar regulation and nutrient density, that is completely separate from food triggers. That is just the way in which like everyone deals with blood sugar. Like everyone's got that going on. Even if you don't have a metabolic dysfunction, you can still eat in a way. Like my ex-husband and his girlfriend, they're both super fit people. He's in the military, she's a dancer. She ate sugar all day, every day. She's insulin resistant. She got diagnosed. They were so surprised. I'm like, I'm not. I'm like, you literally sugar 3 meals a day. So now they're all like sugar-free and stuff. And I'm like, eat your protein. So, just saying. I'm like, listen, my kids always spending the summer over there. I'm like, what you got? I'm like, send me a picture. What does the fridge look like? Anyways, just kidding. I didn't do that. All right, any other questions?
You talked about your metabolism. Are there any recommendations you have of food that can kind of help speed that up?
I think it's more, like green tea is always said to boost metabolism. I think when you, it can be tough with that. Like, honestly, I'm someone who I feel like I have this metabolism of a freaking snail, And so one of the things which I feel like has helped me, which is interesting because it kind of goes against what I used to preach in terms of I think for blood sugar regulation and stability, going 3 to 4 hours between meals is ideal. But now that I'm pushing 40, I find I do better with smaller, more frequent meals, every 3 hours. I find that that's better and it's been easier. I'm on a GLP-1 and it helps me when I eat more frequent meals to lose weight and stay steady versus when I was younger. When I first changed my diet, I'd be like, I could eat a big old plate of food, not eat for 5 or 6 hours. And that worked in my 30s, but now my body's like, that's cute. So I think you gotta find what works for you, But protein, again, protein's gonna be, and okay, this is really fun. The more muscle you have, the better you respond to blood sugar. So muscles love carbs, right? So it's muscle glycogen, right? So literally that's why you see really fit people and they can kind of eat whatever they want. A lot of times it's because the more muscle you have on your body, those muscles are gonna absorb that glycogen and take those carbs and just use them to get you all buff. So you wanna build more insulin, to be able to eat more and get a better response, weight lift, do some resistance training. That'll definitely help your metabolism. Any other questions? Yeah. 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 For sure. And so I will tell you, and I'll be super real with you guys, when I was a full-time food blogger, and maybe this is also hard when you see people who create food content for a living, it was my job to cook for my family. Literally, it paid my bills every day, staying home and cooking all day. And it wasn't until I sold my food blog and so I got a day job, and I'm a private chef, so I spend most of my days cooking for other people. So when I get home, what's the last thing I want to do? Cook. Right. And so I really had to be disciplined because we got to the point where I'm like, wow, we're ordering out for dinner 3-4 times a week. And not only is that hella expensive, because just look at the fees. And then you're going to be real angry and be like, I'm not ordering anymore. Anyway, so I started meal prepping. So I make it one day of the week. And it doesn't have to be Sunday. Whatever day that I'm like, I'm getting home early, I got a little extra time, I will batch cook. So I will make, if I'm going to roast chicken, I'm not making 1 chicken, I'm making 5. I'm making 6. If I'm going to make anything, I'm making enough so we have leftovers. And so it kind of builds up. And I'll usually make like 1 big pot of soup for the week. I'll make a big pot of rice. I'll make ground beef, I'll roast some vegetables, and I just kind of stock the fridge so on those days where I'm like, I don't want to, I can come home and mix and match and just throw a bowl together. And again, the Hungry Root helps with that because they kind of give me some like of those ingredients kind of easier. Like I get like a steamer bag of potatoes, you can microwave them, and then I can like smash them and throw them in the air fryers. God's gift. Good Lord. I love the Ninja Crispy. It's glass. It doesn't have all like the plastic parts. I'm obsessed with that thing. It literally like lives on my counter. So you have to find the balance of that works for you, right? And even let's say you're going to do DoorDash, maybe think of ordering in a way that you're going to have some leftovers that you can use the next day and just like add something to it, right? So if I order like an extra side of protein or maybe an extra side of rice or greens, then tomorrow I can throw some hard-boiled eggs on top, or So just always think ahead. Don't think of 1 meal at a time. Think 3 meals at a time. You be strategic. Yeah.
This is my question, but I found ChatGPT to be helpful.
Yeah.
I'll say, I have this in my fridge, and then
What can I make?
it gives you ideas.
That's so great. I had a friend who used to text me every day, Christina, I have this, and this. What should I make? I'm like, I'm going to start charging you. Stop texting me. I'm like, blocked. Literally. I'm like, bro, like I charge people for this. I'm not doing it for free. But that's a great idea. Yeah, tools at your disposal, whatever makes it easy. And it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Like I think that that's something that we, things look really good and stuff like that, but it can be taxing. Sauces make the world go round. If you're just literally thinking of like, I have a protein, I have a vegetable, I have a starch, have some good sauces. I love chimichurri. I'll make a homemade honey mustard. I'll have whatever you flavor profile you like, a miso paste, whatever, and have sauces in your fridge because whatever you make every day, even if it's you throw a good sauce on top, throw some herbs, like cilantro, think like Mexican food and Thai food, like the little minced onion and cilantro on top of that makes everything taste better. Like just think of little ways that really boost the flavor profile so you're enjoying what you eat. Yeah, easy little tricks. Any other questions? Okay. Yeah.
Is it bad to eat too much brown rice?
Brown rice?
Yeah.
So again, there's no good and bad. It's what works for you. So if you feel good when you eat brown rice, eat brown rice. If you want to eat brown rice every day, I will say that your body creates antibodies to everything that you eat. So I'll say this, if you eat a lot of brown rice and then you go get tested for a food intolerance, it's very likely brown rice will come up. But that's okay. If you digest it fine and you feel good eating it, that's totally okay. Again, like if you find something that works, a lot of my clients who, again, they're like very wealthy, very intelligent people. One of my clients is a pediatric neurosurgeon, and she eats the same things on repeat. So, she does it. I feel like it can't be too bad for you. She eats the soup a lot, actually. It's one of her favorites. I will say, though, when it comes to your carbs, like don't be scared. Just balanced meals and find what works for you. There's no good and bad food, guys, I promise you. Like the food morality thing is very dangerous, slippery slope to go down. So again, you have to enjoy food. It's not the enemy. Any other questions? Yeah?
Does any of your books have desserts?
Oh, hello. Yeah. Listen, I'm a chocoholic. So, yeah, of course. The first one has more desserts than the second one. But yes, there is. I will show you. So there's key lime pie and pot de crèmes, which are like little key lime pie like pots with like a crispy like hemp seeds crumble. There's a citrus coconut tart. There's a cortadito panna cotta, it's like a coffee panna cotta. There's like a chocolate cake, like a mug cake. I love mug cake. We were talking about it yesterday. If you want a single serving dessert, mug cakes are the way to go because then you just make one. There's brownies and they're flourless. And there's chocolate chip cookies. Look at these dark chocolate muffins. So yeah, there's plenty of desserts. Yeah, I love sweets.
Are you on Amazon?
Yeah, these are available anywhere books are sold. I don't know how to do the giveaway. Should we do like a raffle? Like think of a number 1 through 10? I don't know. The what? Just they're like 4 pounds each. I'm not throwing them at people. Are you kidding me? It was like, that's why my bag was so heavy. These things are like bricks. Yeah. Okay, so we'll do, okay, I guess we'll just do like, I'm think of a number, right? Oh my gosh. Okay. Is HS an auto-inflammatory and autoimmune disease? Is HS auto-inflammatory or autoimmune? Hey, disqualified. Kidding. Is HS auto-inflammatory or immune? What?
Auto-inflammatory.
Correct. You weren't so sure about that. Which one do you want?
The one that is for blood sugar.
They both are actually, but this one has more information on it. Yeah. Okay. There you go. All right. Yay. All right. I guess I'm just gonna have to call them out because I feel like call all the answers and whoever says it first. It's like Hunger Games because if I start calling out people, then I feel like it's weird and biased. Okay, 2 more. What else? Is HS contagious? No. Well, that was a lot. Okay. Oh my god. I can't. You gotta stand up for something. What? Oh, that's a good one. Okay. How many stages are there to HS? Hurtley stages. Ooh, that's a lot. Okay. Well, you stood up. Come here. Okay, what's the last one? That was a good one, Sid. Okay, Sid's over here with the good questions. All right, standing up is a good one because I literally then it's hard. Okay, what's the last one? Oh, no, this is too easy. Is HS curable? No. Okay, I was like, okay, no. All right. Let me get you one anyway. Thank you, guys. And I love being in a room of people who know what they're talking about. And again, I want to just reiterate that share your story, continue to educate people. Conversation I have a lot is correcting people isn't mean because when there's misinformation that spreads about condition, it actually creates hopelessness because then people try things that don't work. And I think it's okay to be really gentle. And if you see an HS warrior online and maybe they're new to sharing their story, slide in real quick and be like, oh my God, welcome to the community. I'm so happy you're sharing your story. It's auto-inflammatory, not autoimmune, or, I'm so glad that worked for you and you're in remission, but remember, remission isn't cured. And it's okay to have these conversations with people because we really need to not just educate each other, but even sometimes our doctors, and we all know that happens too. But continuing to spread awareness and correct information is how we all get better care, And even about the nutrition stuff, that people will be online and say, well, I ate a cup of raisins a day and that cured me, or I went carnivore and that cured mine. And I'm like, listen, calm down. I'm so happy you feel better, but that's not how that works. And that's okay. So anyways, keep in touch. Follow me on socials. There's my business cards in the front where the soup is if you want to get a hold of me. I have a blog, Nutrition for Hydrogenetic Sportiva, where I continue to create resources to educate around these topics because again, nutrition is just one of the many, many tools in your toolbox to help manage your disease. Thank you guys.